Now imagine I'm walking around campus one day and I'm walking down the pathway and I notice a lamppost. Nice little sunny day. I notice the lamppost is casting a shadow. And I notice that I'm casting a shadow. So I think to myself, can I determine how tall that lamppost is just with that information? And I give it some thought and I realize, well, I can. Basically, I got a couple of triangles that are similar. So for example, I have my height. So imagine here I am. I know I'm 6 foot tall. And I was able to measure my shadow at that particular time of the day, which was 4 feet. And I'm sitting next to the lamppost. I'm not going to draw a lamppost, but let's just say it's a nice tall lamppost and it's casting a shadow. And the shadow it was casting was 14 feet. But I don't know how tall the lamppost is. Well, basically what I just created were two similar triangles. The angle of the shadow are the same. They're both right triangles. Therefore, the other angle matches that angle. And therefore, I have similar triangles, which means I can go ahead and use some proportions to solve a side that I may not know. And I'm curious on this one. How tall is that lamppost? Don't want to climb up. So what I can do is I can look at a proportion. Again, a proportion was creating a ratio of one quantity to another equaling another one. So let's do the height of the lamppost to my height. Height of the lamppost is X. My height is 6. The shadow cast by the lamppost was 14. The shadow cast by myself was 4. Again, not the only one that you can come up with. You could also do X is to 14 as 6 is to 4. Anywhere where you're looking for a consistent relationship. So let's take this one up here, solve that for X. To solve for X, I'm going to multiply both sides by a 6. We'll keep doing it with my pens because you guys like seeing those colors. Multiply that by a 6. I'm left with then I have an X equals a 14 times a 6 divided by a 4. Working that through, it looks like that I can take a 2 out of both sides, divide through, so I can make that a 7 times a 3. And then what's left on that one is X equals 21. 21 foot or 21 feet is how tall that lamppost is. Did not have to climb up it, did not have to do something tricky. All I had to do was use some information that I had available to me. Now, as a little side note, I'm going to back up a little bit. I was starting to feel worried that maybe from this step to that step, I kind of lost you a little bit. And this might be a good opportunity to think about some shortcuts we can do when we're multiplying. So let's just look at this for a second. If I had 14 times a 6 divided by a 4, well, that's also a 14 times a 6 divided by a 2 times a 2. And then I just divided 14 by 2, which gave me my 7, and 6 divided by 2 gave me my 3. And that was a way for me to help reduce some numbers and simplify before I had to go ahead and compute the solution.